Look at these two garden beds. Same dirt, hauled from the same pile. Same seeds, planted the same morning. One bed is thick and green and heavy with tomatoes. The other one is yellow and stunted and giving you almost nothing. Most folks look at that failing bed and reach for fertilizer. They feed it, and it just sits there. That is because the problem was never the food. The soil is holding that food under lock, and every plant in the bed is starving with a full pantry 3 inches from its roots. There is one number that decides whether a plant can pull anything out of the ground. Not the brand of feed, not how much you spread on top. One number, and once you can read it, you stop guessing. The plants in the good bed can read it just fine. The plants in the yellow bed cannot. Over the next 5 lessons, I will walk you through that number. From the lab where it got its name to the sample you pull out of your own bed this weekend. How the scale works and why it fools people. Why some plants must have sour ground and others do not. The point where the soil turns against the roots. And how you nudge that number where you want it with lime, sulfur, or plain wood ash over months, not days. This is groundwork, where the land, the history, and the plain, hard-won sense meet. And the first thing you learn is where this number came from. So let's go back to a laboratory in Copenhagen in the year 1909. Lesson 1 is the scale itself, and why it lies to you about how steep it is. A chemist named Sorensen, working at Carlsberg's brewing lab in Copenhagen in 1909, wanted a simple way to put a figure on acidity. He built a scale and named it pH, the one you still see on every test kit at the garden store. It runs from 0 to 14. 7 is neutral. Below 7, the ground turns sour, what we call acid. Above 7, it goes alkaline. Most garden soil sits somewhere between 5 and 8. That's a rough range, not a rule. Now look at that number line, and you will make the same mistake almost everyone does. It reads like a plain ruler, even spacing. That is the lie. The pH scale is logarithmic. Each whole number is 10 times the one next to it. A soil at 6 isn't a hair more acid than one at 7. It is 10 times more acid. So when a neighbor says his soil is only 1 point low, he isn't a little low. He is 10 times off. 1 point is never 1 point down here. It is a 10-fold jump. Lesson 2. You just learned that one number decides what a plant can eat. Now learn where the fix came from, and it's older than the scale itself. 2,000 years ago, Pliny the Elder wrote it down in his Natural History. Farmers in Gaul and Britain spread a chalky clay called marl. They knew nothing of pH. Nobody would put a number on it for 18 more centuries. But they knew a soured field came back after that white clay went in. Here's what they were fixing. Phosphorus gets punished at both ends of the scale. Too acidic, it locks up with iron and aluminum. Too alkaline, it locks up with calcium. The marl nudged the number to the middle, and the lock let go. Same dirt, same seed. One plant starving 3 inches from its food. One growing green once the number moved. Lesson 3, and it's the one that trips up good gardeners. The same number is not right for everyone. Different plants want different ground. Walk out to a homestead in midsummer and you can see it at a fence line. A blueberry patch on one side, a row of tomatoes on the other. Same rain, same sun, and 2 completely different countries of dirt. Start with the tomatoes, because that side is the crowd. Most of what you grow to eat, tomatoes, beans, squash, corn, does its best work in ground sitting somewhere between 6 and 7, just barely on the sour side of neutral. That's the comfortable middle. Skip the test, and you're betting the whole bed lives in that band. Most years you'd win, but not every year, not every yard, and a lost year is a lost season. Now step across the fence. The blueberries want none of that. They're the odd one out. They want ground down around 4.5 to 5.5, real sour dirt, closer to black coffee than to plain water. Set a blueberry bush in that comfortable tomato ground, and it sulks. Yellow leaves, no fruit, slowly giving up, while 3 feet away, the tomatoes never had a better year. So it was never one good number against one bad number. Same fence, same weather, same hands working both beds. But the blueberry is thriving in dirt that would starve the tomato, and the tomato is thriving in dirt that would starve the blueberry. Lesson 4, and this is the one where the number stops being a comfort setting and turns into a warning. So far, you've moved the number for better eating, better reach, the right ground for the right plant. Now learn the line you do not want to cross. Push a handheld meter into a real garden bed and watch the reading settle. Down around 5.5, the screen looks calm. It isn't. This is the edge. Here's what happens on the wrong side of it. Drop much below 5.5, and the exact line shifts with your soil. And aluminum that sat locked and harmless starts dissolving into a form roots pull right in. It was always in the dirt, sitting still, doing no harm. The sour ground sets it loose, and loose aluminum doesn't feed a plant, it poisons it. The roots stop reaching down the way they should. They stunt, they thicken, they quit growing into the ground. A plant with crippled roots can stand in plenty of food and still starve because it can't go get it. So watch that meter as the reading falls. Above 5.5, that aluminum stays locked and harmless, which is the whole reason the number matters more than the fertilizer bag. Blueberries are the one exception. They grew up in sour woodland ground, so they carry a built-in tolerance, and that dirt feeds them just fine down to 4.5. Lesson 5. The one you take out to the garden. Start with the sample because a bad one lies to you. Dig 6 inches down in several spots across the bed. Then stir that dirt into one bucket. One scoop can read sweet, while the next foot over runs sour. A color kit from the hardware store gets you close. But the real number comes from a lab. Call your county extension office. Most run a soil test for a few dollars. Ground come back too sour? You spread lime, and then you wait. It talks to the acid slow, one rain at a time, 3 to 6 months to fully shift a bed. Too sweet for the blueberries, you work in sulfur. Slower yet, because the bugs in the dirt have to turn it sour on their own clock, not yours. Wood ash from the stove? Works like lime, weaker and faster, but go heavy-handed and you overshoot, and it salts up the bed if you keep coming back to it. So, sample this weekend, correct this fall. We test that same bed in spring. You're not feeding the plant. You're turning the one key that lets it feed itself. Now walk back to where we started. 2 garden beds side by side, same fence, same dirt, same sun. One bed thriving, one failing. And this whole time you've been thinking one of them just had bad ground. Neither of them does. The ground under the failing bed isn't spoiled, and it isn't tired, and it isn't missing anything you could pour out of a bag. It's holding food, plenty of it, locked up tight. It's just holding the wrong key for the crop you put there. Move that one number, and the same dirt starts feeding the same plant. So the choice in front of you is a plain one, and it comes down to two things. You can change the soil, lime it up, or work sulfur down, and wait the months it takes for that number to move. Or you can leave the soil alone and change what you plant and put in the crop that already wants the ground you've got. Blueberries in the sour bed, tomatoes in the sweet one. Either way, you stop fighting the dirt and start reading it. So carry one question out to your own beds this weekend. Did you ever test that ground's number before you fed it, or have you just been handing it the wrong key? This is groundwork, where the land, the history, and the plain, hard-won sense meet.